And so we just started pitching Novation, and it was like, if I can make an extra $50K waiting 90 days,
I'll do it, yeah.
I'm square.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah. And that changed everything. The moment we switched to that, it was gangbusters in locking up deals.
The days of just being able to wholesale strictly are over. So it's like, and then...
What's up, well builders? Today, I'm going to just call him the godfather of Phoenix because it seems like he's just doing deals with everyone out there. He's done over 12,000 real estate deals, and I think he did over 400 last year alone. So I've got Chris Eyeman. What's up, man?
How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So, dude, you've been a part of a lot of transactions. I mean, I was just asking you on the way here, like, you know, how did last year go? What's the market looking like? The last couple of years? Like, tell me a little bit about how you even got to this point.
Well, I was just, I was an IT guy, right? And I got laid off in the tech downturn twice. You know, if you've ever had a conference room call, here's a conference room, here's your check, threw a couple extra weeks on. And then so I obviously entered real estate in 99. Everything was great. Everybody was making money. And then 2007 hit, right? So, you know, took a pretty good looking there, obviously. And then, and started back over and just, you know, after 24 years of doing anything, you get, you know, pretty good at it, right? So
Yeah.
you just got to learn how to adjust and pivot in the different markets.
Yeah. One thing I want to ask you is, like, you know, you said you lost it all in 2008. And we just went through our own the most severe downturn since 2008, you know, in 2022. I've been open that I lost millions during that. And, you know, obviously I'm still here, still making money, but others weren't so fortunate. What did you learn from each downturn?
So the first downturn, I was actually able to get a $25 million line of credit that was then a $100 million line of credit from Wells Fargo as a hard money lender, right? Signing the personal guarantee. So in the financial crisis, personal guarantee on $100 million definitely.
You're toast.
Yeah. So, but I didn't file BK. I learned that if you just negotiate with the people that you're doing business with, you're fair, and you just, you know, communicate with them. You're just like, hey, I lost everything. I'm Chris Eyeman. I lost $4.5 million. You're Wells Fargo. You lost $6 million. Anyway, I ended up getting out of all my personal guarantees. Didn't file bankruptcy. I paid all the friends and family money back, which was like $1.5 million, which took me from 2008 to 2015.
You took 7 years to pay everyone back.
Took 7 years, but I mean, you know, I couldn't. These are friends and family. I couldn't look them in the face. I could have filed BK and said, "Sorry, I made a mistake," but I just didn't. That just didn't feel good to me. So,
well, and I think that's important to hear because a lot of people recently lost money.
Yeah.
Right. Friends and family money, private investor money, and everything else. And so, obviously, private investors are going to be mad about it. They're going to want their money like tomorrow.
Right.
And I mean, what would your advice to those people be who are maybe in that spot?
So I called all my guys and I'm like, I can't pay interest. Like it's gone. The interest is off the table. Like if you want to come after me and pressure me for that, feel free. And then you're going to
you're last on the list.
Yeah. Well, you're going to force me into the BK.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm trying not to BK, but if you force my hand, I'm not going to have a choice. So, I just said no more interest, and you know I did my best, and I jumped back quickly because I got a fund account. I got the Frio account, which was a Goldman Sachs account. So I started buying for them here in Vegas, and so I'd go down to the newspaper and bid down there, and in Phoenix. So I mean, our single biggest day was 27 houses in one day at foreclosure sale. So that helped, but literally a quarter check had come in. We paid ourselves every quarter. It'd be like $90,000. I'd be like, I'm going to keep like 15 for myself, and then just start writing checks.
Wow.
And then, I'd be like, here's a little bit, just kind of.
Just crumbs each step of the way.
Just keep, they keep seeing the checks come in. They quit calling as much. And then.
They know you're working at it.
Yeah. Doing your best. So.
What was it like dealing with that stress?
Oh, it was terrible. Like, and one of the guys
just knowing like this debt is looming over you.
Yeah, it was difficult. And one of the guys would like send like, I'm a pretty big guy, but he'd send like a guy to sit out in front of my house in a car. Like, I don't know, a guy was probably 6'7", 350 pounds, like could look like he could be at like WWE or something. Just just to like intimidate you and just Just we wouldn't show up often, but like once a month, he's like, Chris, you need to make your payments. I'm just like, dude.
Dang. And I mean, dealing with that, right? You're going through it. You negotiated with Wells Fargo, but you still, were paying back these people. What was the negotiation with Wells Fargo like?
It was literally like, hey, you're Wells Fargo. You lost $6 million. I'm Chris Eyeman. My 08 tax return said negative $4.5 million. It's like, like, I'm like, I can pay you some, but I don't know what that looks like. I mean, anyway, I ended up settling with Wells for like $60,000.
Wow. And they wiped out the $6 million.
Yeah.
So 1%.
Yeah. But I mean, sooner or later, they just figured take something, right?
Yeah. I mean, if they didn't take it, you were going to pay them nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So with that, like, I would say, what pushed you to even stay in real estate? You just got burned. Like a lot of people would quit. Yeah.
So interestingly enough, like I've been laid off in the corporate world twice. So I already felt that pain. Right. So, I knew I wasn't going back to that route. I saw how you could make money in real estate. So it's not hard to go like, well, if I did it once, I should be able to do it again. And at the time my kids were, they're younger. So, I mean, you don't really have a choice when you have 3 kids. It's like, get up and, I had the 07 Escalade and the 07 550, and this is 07 or 08 now. So it's not like I didn't need 2 cars. I literally, took the GMC or the Cadillac to GMC and dropped it off. And he's like, you're not late. I'm like, I'm going to be. And, I got the 99 Toyota Camry with 137,000 miles on it. My kids called it the Hoopty. Like paid $3,000 cash for it and started driving houses. That was it.
Dang. Just going all in on hustling.
Yeah. I mean, just never quit, right?
Yeah. How did you even get the hard money account with Wells Fargo? You said they gave you like $100 million line of credit. Like, how do you even do that?
So I first started out bidding at the foreclosure sales, right? So, this is back when hard money was 18%.
Yeah.
It was not 12 like it is now. It was 18. So I started the foreclosure sales, borrowing hard money from another guy at 18% and doing my fix and flips. And this is like 2000 now. And I was a wholesaler, I think, before the word wholesaler was a word, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I buy at the courthouse. I'm like, what do you mean you buy it? No one buys at the courthouse. I'm like, I buy at the courthouse. So it's like, and then what do you do? I'm like, I buy the house and I fix and flip it and I sell it for more. Well, can you show me some example? I'm like, yeah, look at this one and look at this one. Well, can you buy me one? Like, yeah, I'll buy you one and I bought it for 100. It's worth 160. Pay me $4,000. Bring it in cash. And that's how I started. And then I ended up partnering with a guy. We're just doing this all, no texting around. We're literally, reaching out to clients. Hey, we bought 123 Main Street, bought it for $100,000. We'll sell it for 105. And then I got this call from a guy and he's like, hey, you're borrowing all this hard money at 18%. What if I give you money at 12% and you lend it at 18%? You can keep the rest. Okay. And with all my customers, I was keeping like $8 to $10 million busy. And he's like, I got plenty of money. Just keep it moving. And so then the original guy I was borrowing money from, he said, hey, bring me your guy. If we can get $25 million moving, that's kind of our entry level into big banking. So we merged everything together, and he had this guy out of New York that flew in and started documenting all our stuff. And next thing we know, we're having a meeting with Wells Fargo, and we're off and running.
So what was Wells charging you guys?
So at the time we were at Prime plus 2. Prime was at 7.
Okay.
So we're paying 9. And we're lending at 18.
Yep. And then points and everything too.
Yeah. So Phoenix is interesting. Everybody else charges points throughout the country. Phoenix, like if you charge points, you just don't get business. It's like, it's a little bit higher rate. Like we charge 12 and 9 in Phoenix right now. And that's kind of the like $500 to $900 fee. 12
and 9. What is 9?
So 12% interest, $500 to $900 fee.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So you can't get like even a big company. A buddy of mine named Ryan, he works for iFund City. He's like, I cannot get Phoenix off the ground. I'm like, you're 2-10. People hate points in Phoenix. They just don't like them.
Weird.
Yeah. So it's just because of the short duration and the fast turnover of the market, right? So if you pay 10% and it turns over 3 times, you're really paying 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So you end up doing the hard money thing. Obviously, 2008 happened. Didn't work out on that front. But then you said you immediately just kind of got it going again.
Yeah. So we started bidding for the fund. We were only getting $1,500 in acquisition, but when you're doing a large number of acquisitions a day, obviously you're making money. And then I just slowly all the friends and family money, paid them all back.
Yep.
And I slowly just started the hard money business again, but it's all private. I literally put my money out between 12 and 13%. I pay 10%. I'm a licensed banker, so I'm clipping the 2 to 3% plus the $900 fee. And I'm not a fund. I sell individual deeds of trust. So like if I buy a truck, like if you had $1 million with me, you might have 960 at the time, or the next month you might have $1,050,000, but you own those deeds of trust. They're yours. I wholesale them just like I wholesale a house. I got a note for $150,000 on 123 Main Street. The house is worth $250,000. I'm like, hey, here's a note for sale. Wires in the money. I sell them the note. I service it. I pay you your 10%.
It didn't seem like that lucrative, like 2% plus, well, like 2% of the interest, not even 2 points. And then like the fee's $900.
Yeah. So I'd say it averages, I bet our average is probably, let's call it 275, but on 60 million bucks.
275 of what?
Interest spread.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just say my interest spread is 275, but on $60 million, that's 1.5 million.
Got it. So you had 60 million out at a time?
Yeah. So I have 60 million out right now.
Got it. Okay.
So I'm making 2.5 on 60 million.
Yeah.
It's $1.5 million in gross revenue, and I can run it with one TC. I'm the loan officer.
And then you also get the fees, the transaction fees.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you're moving that much cash, you get like some transactional funding here and there. Maybe I get 3 to 5 transactional funding deals that come in. I get a full point for like 2 to 3 days. Yeah.
Yep.
And the fact that I have, our average daily balance is like $1 million. So the fact that I have $1 million available, you might say, hey, Chris, my lender fell apart. I need money for 2 days.
Yep.
1 point.
Yep.
There's $3,000. You know?
Well, that's the easy money.
Yeah.
Those returns are like thousands %.
Yeah. So, but they blend in with the rest of them. So it works out. But then you get the guys that say, hey, I need to fix and flip a house. I got a home run deal. And I'm like, yeah, let me see the deal. I'll split it with you, or I'll give you even 40%.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then I just fund it. They manage it. They do the rehab. They sell it. I just sit back and then
you guys pay the lender and you make the spread on top for your split.
Yeah, because I'm always doing a 12%, minimum.
Yeah.
I'm getting a 12% no matter what. If the 40% exceeds that, great.
Yeah. And do you do like 100% deals with people too?
Yeah, like a good guy like my buddy Luke. Like I'm paying for 100% of the acquisition and all the rehab.
Right. So yeah, I've had very similar deals to my lenders over the years of just getting into all these deals with no money and all that. So that makes a lot of sense. So obviously, like hard money is something that you've been doing now for over a decade. But you also still do flips and wholesales and everything else of your own. So, I guess how did that progress over the years?
Well, it's, we're a wholesaler first. That's our goal. We just want to wholesale and then try to lend the money and get the interest spread. Our goal is not to fix and flip. We fix and flip when other people bring us deals that like, hey, I cherry picked one. I got one. Obviously, I'm not a perfect wholesaler. When you've committed to, the 75-year-old grandma that like, I'm buying this house, and we go through waves in this market, right? right now it's kind of a ghost town in the wholesale business. It's like fall, election year, like to try to wholesale a deal is, like pulling teeth, but you've committed to buy the house. So you're like, all right, I'll buy this house. I'm not getting the wholesale number at 70 cents on the dollar that I thought I'd get. But I know as soon as 11.4 passes, and I mean, we're actually at the best interest rates that we've had in about 15 months right now. So it's like, okay, if I grab this one and I put 60 days into it and the election's passed, and if the jobs report comes out on September 6th, then it's bad. It's probably going to push the 10-year down to like a 3.5, which will make rates under 6.
Yeah.
I can probably sell that in December and get a way better number than I could wholesaling it today.
Yeah.
So just understanding the cycles of the market. Obviously you've been in a mastermind. I've been in a mastermind. It's just like, I was sitting in the mastermind last December and everybody's like, I don't understand the market. I'm like, you just saw a replay of this from 2022. How did you miss you saw the interest rates spike in September, October up to like 7.5 in 2022, and you saw everybody go to a ghost town, and you're seeing it again in September, October 2023. Like you just had a preview. How did you miss it?
Yeah. So with that, I mean, explain to everyone like how important interest rates are for our business.
Oh, I mean, they're huge. And I track my inventory in Phoenix like literally on a daily basis. When I open MLS, I click on MLS actives, and I know I can tell you, if you told me, hey, Chris, what year and time, how many actives do you have in Phoenix? I could probably recite it to you. But the same thing is with the 10-year, like you can watch mortgage applications or you can watch the 10-year bond. You can just watch if it's like, it's sitting at 3.86 right now as of this morning, right? So
you're watching it every day. You know the exact numbers.
Yeah, because like if interest rates start cranking up, you'll watch the mortgage applications go like this.
Yeah.
And that's just a leader to like, hey, your MLS listings are going to start slowing down. So you shouldn't be buying that next fix and flip from me, because your cycle on your cash is going to be longer because your days on market's going up. Yeah. So it's just understanding the different pieces of the puzzle, right? It's all just a puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most people don't understand, like, number one, like you said, interest rates are a huge part, but then there's just seasons in real estate. So Phoenix is very much like Vegas, where the winter is very slow.
Yeah.
I mean, there's holidays. People ain't trying to sell their home in December. They'd rather just wait and list it in January and, do that. So like I've gone into every market knowing that, I've tracked inventory since 2018. So I have a spreadsheet that has tracked it every day for the last, 6-7 years. Right. And so I can go look at the trends just like what you're saying and see that, well, every year inventory goes up.
Yeah.
In the winter.
Yeah.
It just does. Regardless of how the economy's doing, rates, like even in 2020, 2021, when things were like the hottest they've ever been, period, inventory still went up. It's just not what it is today, but it still went up.
Is it like for us, it's August 15th in Phoenix. It's like as soon as the kids go back to school, that's the start.
Yep.
And it just slows down and it runs and it runs. The interesting part is like in December of 2022 and 2023, you saw that spike in September, October, and it actually took those January buyers forward. I don't know if you saw the same thing in December.
What do you mean it took the January buyers forward?
So I call Phoenix like as soon as football ends, college football, like January 10th. That's the kickoff for the real estate season in Phoenix, Arizona, right? Because we're past the holidays.
Yeah.
But if you look at Phoenix, we usually, in a busy month in Phoenix, we'll transact 10,000 homes a month.
Yeah.
2021, it was more like 12. October, we'll trade somewhere between 5 and 5,500 homes. So it's almost like a 50% decrease, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in 2022 and 2023, because interest rates hit that like 7.5 point, and then they dip back into like 6.5 and 6.25, you actually saw people buying in December, which was rare. Usually, like back in 2018, that never happened. But because people saw an interest rate dip, they actually
They were like, I don't want it to go back up.
Yeah,
I'm going
to come forward even though it's Christmas time. So
yeah. So hopefully they do that.
Yeah.
This winter, that'd be great.
I think actually with, the 10-year as it sitting now, you see a couple bad job or just another economic bad report, because we're kind of dipping towards that recession number. You get like somebody say a full recession, and then people are going to move out of stocks because we're up 19% for this year in a lot of stock categories. So they're going to take their gains. They're going to run to bonds. It's going to bring supply demand, right? It's going to bring the bond prices down. We're going to get, we get a 3.5 on the 10-year. That means and as the bond decreases, your margin decreases on that, right? So it's going to get you like a 5.75 on an interest rate. And I think that will push people forward into December again. Could be wrong, but.
Explain for those who don't know how the bond market, how the 10-year and all this affect interest rates. How does it work?
All right, so you have the 10-year bond. That's really what is kind of the index of mortgage rates, right? And then you have the margin. So if you have a 3.5 10-year bond, you have the margin that. So you take the index and the margin. That's the total rate, right? Well, as the bond increases, or the price of the bond increases, so does the margin, because a big servicer like Mr. Cooper or something like that, he spends 1 point to pay for that mortgage, because then he services it. Well, he doesn't break even till year 3. So as the bond increases, he's like, oh, someone could refi me if the bond drops. So then the margin increases too, because he's going to take the margin is going to go closer to 3, because
he'll take a loss.
He's going to pay a point. He needs to recover that point. So when you see interest rates climb, you get hit in both spots, the margin and the index. So as they come down, then you're getting the benefits of both. The margin's decreasing and the index is decreasing. So if you get a 3.5, your margin's going to come down to maybe like a 2.25, because they're like, oh, we're going to put out this loan. They're probably not going to refi us anytime soon. Whereas you're sitting up at a 7.5.
He's like, I'm getting refied.
Yeah, I'm going to get refied. And I just spent a point for this loan. Like, I lose it in a year and a half. It just cost me a 0.5 point.
A lot of people don't even realize like how the loan industry works. Like, talk about even that, right? So Mr. Cooper is one of the biggest. Is he a service provider? Or?
Yeah, he's just a servicer, right? He gets checks.
I've had lots of loans with Mr. Cooper.
Yeah,
I don't even know why I'm calling him a he. It's a company. So, like Mr. Cooper usually is buying loans from like Rocket Mortgage or any of these guys.
Yeah, they're just a servicer. Their goal is just to sit there and service that loan. Like I said, they buy the loan, and they usually make 0.3 points or 30 basis points a year, right? So
by servicing the loan.
So
they pay a point to whoever, Wells Fargo.
Yep.
And Wells Fargo, writes this loan for $500,000. They're going to pay $5,000 to Wells.
Yep.
And that's how Wells makes money.
Yep. And then so they sit there and they service it, and their goal is the average loan length is 7 years, right? That's the average loan length. So they make their money when it goes to 7 years. If it goes to a year and a half, they lose a 0.5 point. So,
but they're just playing the average.
Yeah, they're playing the average. So anyway, so that's why you see in mortgages, you see as the index goes up, the margin also goes up. So you get hit twice as hard as an increasing market. So
and then when it goes down,
you get both. Yeah.
That's so weird that it's just all or nothing, essentially.
Yeah, so that's why your interest rates went all the way up. They almost touched 8, right?
Yeah.
And then comes down a little bit. It's only gone down like 0.75 point, but now you're at 6.25. It's because they're both shrinking.
Yeah. And then so we think that there will be even more shrinking.
Yeah.
Like, what's your prediction in the next 12 months? Like, where do you see it going?
Well, so I think, I think they just said inflation they're expecting. Obviously, it's been coming down, right? So I think that another jobs market bad report brings us to a 10-year of like 3.6, 3.5, which will bring us with interest rates tipping under 6. I think that's going to bring the buyers forward into December. So you start getting some momentum back in the real estate market. Guys like us should make more money, more wholesale deals because the flippers are getting more momentum. And if you're flipping, obviously your days on market will shorten.
Yep.
Your cash cycle will shorten.
So it's all good things.
All good things. We're going to spend more money at Lowe's and Home Depot and all those places, right? So
we're going to do more deals.
Yeah.
Spend more on marketing.
Exactly. So I think it's a good thing. I mean, obviously 2022 and 2023, third and fourth quarter were hard on pretty much everybody in the business, right?
It was brutal.
I mean, just the the transition and you make your monies you either lose money in the transition or you make your money in the transition. So I think right now is the transition. Like that's why, I'm willing to take down grandma's house and fix and flip it because I think I got a way better chance of selling retail in December and January than taking no money on a wholesale.
Right.
So.
Got it. So with these loan providers well, actually, let's talk about this, right? I'll get back to the loan providers because now I'm, as a guy who's how many like millions of loans do you think you've done over the years?
I don't know. Let's just say I do 400 loans a year. I don't know. Call it 15 years. I don't know, 6,000 loans. But I don't know how. I mean, that just loans. And if you were to take it times 300,000, like that's how much money our volume has passed or whatever.
Billions.
Yeah.
You have billions of dollars of loans over the years. But I guess my question is, obviously for you and a lender, cheaper rates are better. You're just going to get way more transaction volume, refinances, all those things. Do you see, I know that we're talking about, we might go under 6 here this winter, but do you see like going into 2025, like a year from now, do you think that they'll be even lower? Do you think they'll be under 5%? Like, what do you think?
No, I think the mid 5s is the new norm, right? I don't unless there's something catastrophic that happens where you got a little bit of issue. Like the biggest buyer of loans during COVID was the United States, right? We were just buying our own loans, so that was keeping the mortgage rates down. Because the change in the U.S. dollar, your buyers of mortgage-backed securities your pool is shrinking. So you have less buyers. So I think, just mid 5s is just the new average. You're not going to see 3s. You're never going to see 2.75 again. So, maybe, in a down market, you touch on some high 4s, but I mean, but that's just the normal, like a 5.5% mortgage. Like when I bought my first house a long time ago, 30 years ago, I paid 7.5. Like that was just the normal.
Yeah. My first house, I became a realtor in 2010, bought a house in 11, and I got like a 4.75. And my mom, who's been a realtor for over 30 years, was like, this is an amazing rate.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was just like always in the 5s.
Yeah.
And it was just like, this is just what rates are.
And that's just a normal market.
Even in like 18 and 19, we were in like the high 4s and 5s.
Yeah. I mean, it's just normal. That's just the normal market. I mean, and then as a retailer, fix and flipper, a wholesaler, it's just normal. And having slow falls is normal. It's
all just normal business.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here.
Yeah. It's just, and then knowing when to spend your marketing dollars. Like, I mean, I don't know if you do any adjustment on your marketing dollars when you're competing with every Christmas guy on the planet. Marketing goes up, right?
Yeah.
Gets more expensive. I have some buddies that do commercials in Phoenix, and it's like, they still spend, but the cost to spend during that time on commercials is
it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran TV commercials for 4 years. So
there you go. You know it, right?
I know exactly marketing cost during election season.
Yeah. Or Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah. Q4 is always it's more expensive. E-commerce brands spend so much money, on social media ads and everything. So like even in the education space for, everything we do over there, we've always known that December is just tough because you're trying to outspend everyone else.
Yeah. I was always wondering, I wanted to ask this question, is like in the education space, but you get more business because people are buying like that as a present? I'm curious.
No, people do
Okay.
people do not gift education.
Okay.
But like an angle from a business standpoint is like, well, if you need a tax write-off, you should buy your education now.
Right.
December's the time. This is your last chance to get that write-off. And I've seen people do it. But I think at the end of the day, in December, everybody is like thinking the same thing. They're just like, oh, business is slow. I don't want to spend money.
Right.
Especially in real estate.
Yeah.
Marketing's expensive right now. I don't want to do this. And so like very few people just have the capital, and they're like buying presents and they're going on vacation. And so I don't know. Education is one of those things that they just don't really spend much on in December.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big corporate guys usually kind of load up on stuff at their...
Yeah, you got a budget. It's going to go away.
Yeah, spend it.
You better spend it or it's toast.
Yeah.
So what do you think about how the election will affect rates and all that?
I think the 10-year bond is a little bit affected by the election. I don't think it's that affected. It's more affected by people with fear moving out of stocks, right?
Right.
So you get guys selling off. I mean, the NASDAQ has had an amazing run, right?
Yeah.
It's just been up, even though it lost, what did it lose, 1,000 points a couple weeks ago? But I mean, it's still, it's coming back, right? So,
I saw that with like Japan's stock market.
Yeah, that one day just slide. But and what people forget is everybody talks about Powell lowering it and raising the rate. People got to remember that that's the short-term rate. That's your credit card rate. That's your car rates. That's your business loan rates. It's not really your long-term rate, right? It's the 10-year bond that adjusts it. And we've seen, a 0.75 to 0.8 of a point decrease over the last 30 to 45 days. And the Fed rate hasn't changed one bit, right?
Yeah.
So
it's all the bond.
Yeah, it's all based on the bond, and it's all based on stock, guys. So, obviously, if Trump gets in, do the stocks keep running? But I follow a couple guys that say, hey, when stuff starts trading at 30 times or 20 times earnings, which a lot of stuff is trading 20 times earnings right now, it's a little hefty.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. And then we go the other way. I don't know what happens, the tax increases that, I've seen people put out like unrealized.
Oh, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Unrealized taxes on gains that are unrealized.
I kind of just wonder if that's even real.
Yeah.
Because I've seen people saying Kamala's talking about unrealized tax gains.
How do you do that even?
Like you look at my rental portfolio and you're like, hey, this is how much gain you had the last, and then now you owe money on it, even though you didn't get the money.
Or the 40% capital gain rate. I mean, that's why would you ever sell a thing?
No, you just borrow against it.
Yeah, exactly. Just borrow and keep it in the portfolio and borrow some money against it.
Yeah. Well, it would turn us into an even bigger just borrowing, economy.
Yeah.
If we weren't already that.
Yeah. We already didn't have some debt problems.
Yeah. But you're forcing everyone to just keep taking debt because it's the financially wiser move.
Yeah.
Instead of selling.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, everybody had moved to Puerto Rico, right? But they'd probably get rid of that one. The whole 4% Puerto Rico tax, the capital gains.
Yeah.
We're all moving to Puerto Rico.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's any amount of money that would make me uproot my whole family and my kids and everything just to I don't know. I'm in my mind, I'm like, I'll just make the money easier.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a couple people do it and then move back.
Yeah. It just seems like not really worth it.
Yeah.
But okay. So election wise, I mean, obviously Trump would help, but overall, it's not truly going to affect interest rates as much as maybe people think.
No, I don't think so. It's just, I mean, I think we're slow until the election happens. Like I said, I think we're gonna have some economic indicators that are gonna bring it down before the election happens. But I still don't think that's, I don't do social media like you do social media, but I literally like a month ago, I was like, all right, we got the lowest rates in a year for sure. And we got the seasonality of fall. Who wins? And our inventory in Phoenix has crept up about 700 units. So clearly the seasonality is currently winning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think even with rates dropping under 6, I don't think anything changes until after November 4th, right?
Got it. So, just speaking about current market conditions, we talked about 2022 being a tough year. And, once again, you were a hard money lender, and I'm sure you had to go through a bunch of foreclosures and other things. So, how did you deal with that?
So, ironically, I didn't.
Really?
I didn't. So, some of these hard money lenders will chase their investors like, hey, I'll do 10%. This guy will do 10% down. Why don't you do 10% down? And I'm like, nah, I've been through this rodeo once. I'm not doing 10% down. I'm not doing 5% down. I'm not doing any of that. I lost about $500,000 in that June of 2022, but I did it and I cut my losses. So I was buying and I was selling to funds just like all the rest of us. But my number was, me and my partner's number was 10 houses. We're going to keep 10 houses cycling at any given time that we're just, buying and repackaging up, not doing anything to and selling them.
My problem was I had 50.
Right? There you go.
Yeah.
We had a threshold of 10, and when we saw it coming, we literally liquidated.
You're just like, we're out.
We're out. We're done. In that month, we liquidated and took $500,000 a month in like 30 days.
Wow.
Just like, we're not going to write it all the way down. We're not going to we literally just.
Yeah, in hindsight, I wish I would have.
I just wholesaled them off. And but that was kind of house money, right? We're here in Vegas. Like when you've made $1,000 on the craps table and you're just like, all right, I'm going to give 200 back, or I'm going to give 250 back. So like, cause I don't know, it's been selling to funds for 2 straight years at, $30,000 a house, $40,000 a house.
Yeah.
And it was just like, all right, we're done. We're out. We just sold them all that month.
Wow. And then what'd you do?
No, I just went back to wholesaling. And,
well, I was talking more on the hard money lender side.
So yeah. So we were just always 15% down. And
so no one went underwater enough.
Yeah, no one went underwater. When you got 15% down, and then you got to figure they got to put another 10 to 15%, because a lot of people in Phoenix don't ask for the rehab money. So it's probably a small percentage of our portfolio. I'd say less than 20% ask for rehab money. So they're doing the 15% down, and then they're using a gap funder or something like that. They're doing the rehab that way.
Yeah.
So I think since 2008, I've done, call it 10 foreclosures. I've lost on 2. One guy was on American Greed, and he ended up there. And then, the other one was just a high-end flip.
Well, now that I think about it, that makes sense, because even with me, like I said, I lost because I had 50.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But all my hard money guys all ended up getting paid back.
Yeah, right.
I was never late on a payment, nothing. Like, I just bit the bullet and it was what it was. And then I paid back all my lenders, all my private money, my gap funders, and that was that too. Like, it is what it is. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. Probably most of your flippers found a way to pay you back, and then kind of like what you did back in 2008, they probably worked out a payment plan with their lenders and stuff.
Yeah, I had a call from a guy, just what you asked before, and he's like, he got beat up in 22, and he's like, hey, I got about $700,000 behind with the gap funding money. And I'm like, he's like, what do you suggest? And I'm like, hey, just talk to him. It's just a person, right?
Yeah.
Just see what you can work out. And sure enough, I ran into him a couple weeks ago. He's like, he's re-lending me money because I'm back in business.
Yep.
I'm
That's the best way for him to get paid back.
Right, exactly. He's flipping houses again.
Doing more deals.
Yeah, and he's just giving him a piece out of every single deal on top of what he was getting in his interest rate to pay back that money, right?
Yep. You got to just bite the bullet and do it, but it sucks.
Yeah.
It's just, but it's also, it's part of just being in business. Here's my thing. You've talked about wholesaling being important, and I want to talk about that and novations and other things that you guys are doing like us. But as a guy who, I don't know how many total deals I've done now, but for sure, at least 600 actual buy and sells.
Right.
And flips. And, going through 2022 and holding on 50 active flips and dealing with that, I was like, yep, I'm not holding that many again. It took getting burned like bad to come to that conclusion. But that was 7 years after always carrying lots of properties and making a lot of money and being good.
Yeah.
I realized that obviously I love flipping and we still do it and lots of our students do it and it's fine. But wholesaling and flipping carry different levels of risk.
For sure.
And it's like, okay, well, flipping's risk is, clearly the loan. That's the risk. And the reason a lot of people get into flipping first, as you know, is that you don't have to really be good at marketing. You can just buy from wholesalers, realtors, relationships, MLS. It's hard to have a relationship-based business purely on wholesale.
Right.
Especially if you're just getting started. A guy like you's been in the game for 25 years. Sure, you've built up a Rolodex of all these people. But for most people starting out, it's like, bro, if you're not going to spend money on marketing, you probably are going to have to take down some deals and just buy them.
Yeah.
And so, you have that risk. And then on the other side of the coin, you get a lot of people who, you're like, well, dude, you're going to have to spend $5-10 grand a month in marketing if you want to truly get good at wholesaling, starting out.
Yeah.
And dude, I can't afford to spend $5-10 grand a month. And in my mind, now that I've been through both, and I'm like, but you'll take $1 million of debt.
Yeah.
What's the worst that happens over here? You don't get a deal and you spent 20-30 grand on marketing and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all that happened versus potentially losing a lot more. So I don't know. I've kind of changed my attitude after getting burned of you know what? Spending money on marketing is actually way less risky.
Well, there's a balance, right? Because, fix and flips have a longer cash cycle, right? You got a down payment, or if you got some gap funding, you don't have down payment, but you might still have rehab money. You still have the 120 days or 150 days it goes. So, even if you do fix and flip, generating that quick cash flow obviously helps, right? So that's, my buddy Luke that I talk about, he still does his fix and flips, but, and he was sitting there in 2022 and, I would sit around with him I'd scale it back. I'd wholesale a little bit, fix and flip. Wholesale a little bit, fix and flip, because the wholesale just brings in some cash, right?
Yep.
So it's a balancing act, and just and so wholesaling is back to my mastermind sitting in 2023. Everybody went the novation route, right? It was this was the new term, this was the new gig. I'm going to make more than I could on my wholesale fees. But when the MLS cycle turns longer because it's fall and interest rates went up, well, guess what? Their cash cycle slowed down because their novation is based on MLS.
Yeah.
Where I was like, it's a balance. Do some novations, sure, but don't go 100% novation, because wholesaling, brings in cash.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think a lot of people. So I've talked about this, having different cash conversion cycles in real estate. So if we were to look at, all the cycles, it's okay, you start with wholesale, and let's just say this is a 30-day sales cycle.
Right.
Okay. And then the next up from wholesale would be a novation. And let's say a novation is a 90 to 120-day sales cycle.
Right.
Or 60 to 100, whatever you want to say. And then a flip, let's just say on average, it's a 4 to 6 month sales cycle.
Right.
And then you have just normal rentals. You're going to go hold it 1 to 2 years and you want to sell it, then that's a normal rental. And then you have a fund, which is going to be a 5 to 10 year cycle. And people are at the end of the day, to your point, and I've always said this as well, is like, if you can have multiple cycles all happening together, then you're going to be all right. Because I was talking to my buddies who have funds, and I mean, I have a fund too, and you have a fund. And so we all have different funds. And it's like, yeah, when 22 hit and these fund guys couldn't raise money and deals aren't selling because commercial is even more tied to interest rates than even residential.
Right.
It's like they don't have a way to like make money.
Yeah. And they have adjustable loans coming due.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they projected all their numbers based on X, but then
that didn't happen.
Yeah. And then all their loans are resetting in 5 to 7, 10-year terms.
Yep.
So,
yeah. And so it's like, for me, I look at that and I'm like, all right, to your point, I want some wholesales happening that happen really quick. I got some flips that are closing now, and then when they come in, that's great. And then I've been selling some rental properties here and there to just keep cash flow coming in. And then, the fund is the fund. And so 5 to 10 years, like that's the expectation. And it's like, that's how you make money in real estate as you start to scale.
Right.
So for us, it's interesting because I used to just be all flip. So it's just like, hey, at 50, I got some closing each month because from the previous months and all that. But the reason I've like been very heavy on novations now is because it's not even about the sales cycle being longer or trying to make more money. It's just literally like it gets way more deals.
For sure.
And it's just like, all I care about is getting the deals. And like, if my sales, like I've got the cash to withstand, these novations now take 120 days. Like,
yeah,
all good. I'm used to carrying hundreds of thousands a month in mortgages.
Yeah, but it's not even the cash that you need. All you need to do is just have the expectation from the seller, right? That's all you. It doesn't cost any more money.
No,
it's just.
Well, I'm just talking your marketing budgets.
Yeah.
For these guys who are like, oh man, I need deals to close to keep marketing.
Oh right, yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, but you're gonna get way more deals. It's like you should have 120 days of marketing budget.
Right.
That you don't need it to close in order to keep marketing.
For sure. And then and it's not like good old cold calling and texting was the cheapest marketing ever, but it's marketing's back to real money now, right? So it's like,
explain that. Why do you say that?
Well, because cold calling and texting using virtual assistants when you could, blast out 10,000 text messages a day. I mean, that was the cheapest form of marketing ever, right?
Yeah.
It's expensive now. Like PPC cost per lead $300, PPL cost per lead $200. Like it's way different than just like when we were first cold calling, and I had a cold calling room I think back in 2017 or 18. I don't feel like anybody was out there cold calling.
We started cold calling in 18 as well.
So I mean, different. I'm sure you saw your numbers from 18.
They're not the same in 2024.
Yeah, exactly. So right, your cold calling and your text messaging were completely, those were like, oh, cost per lead $50. Just a little different now.
Yeah.
So.
It's crazy. Man, my assumption, just like inflation, is marketing is going to keep going up.
Right.
And, your PPC and PPL numbers are light compared to Vegas.
Yeah.
And I noticed that in Phoenix because we have some clients in Phoenix. So I'm like, wow, I would have thought Phoenix and Vegas would be very similar in cost, but they're not. Cost per lead in Phoenix is much cheaper. Like PPC in Vegas is $600 to $800.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's, well, obviously, when Open Door and OfferPad we're in Phoenix. Like you couldn't.
They're not in Phoenix anymore.
They are, but they just weren't. They were spending way more money.
Yeah.
They were trying to get market share, and they were just like, I wasn't even running PPC.
We got no chance.
I mean, we were trying to Phoenix is obviously a super competitive market. When your average wholesale deal is say $15,000, and if you're running up at $600-700 a lead, and even if your guy's good and he's converting 1 in 10, this is kind of pre novation sub 2 pivots when you're just trying to buy wholesale, like a 1 in 10,
that's
lead,
a great conversion.
Yeah, is good. That means you're $7,000 a contract.
Yep.
And you still got to sell it for $15,000, and you got a dispo guy you're paying as well.
Yeah, you got to make sure. I mean, it's not going to work unless you're making $30K.
Yeah,
You got to make $30K on that deal.
Yeah, so it's obviously, so, cold calling and texting was obviously great for us back then. And, we're with Open Door offer, their budgets are still there, but they're not spending as much because my PPC budget is moving closer to 300, not 600. So,
that's interesting. So Open Door and OfferPad were really heavy in Phoenix doing that.
Yeah, they were spending some money for sure.
I think they're still spending money in Vegas.
Yeah,
because they're showing up a lot, and the lead is what the lead is.
Yeah,
that's interesting. But yeah, I saw it all across the board with TV commercials, with PPC. They just doubled in the matter of a couple of years.
Yeah. So why'd you get out of TV?
Because it just kept doing it kept doubling.
Yeah.
When I first started, it was like $250 a lead. But this was back in 2020. And then, by the end of it, obviously it's very seasonal. Like right now, I don't even want to know what it would be right now during election season.
Right.
It would be crazy.
Yeah.
But, maybe it's like 500 and you're just like, okay. And so here's the thing. The reason I got out of it was because I'd already spent millions running Facebook ads for education and for all my other stuff. And obviously I've been doing social media for a long time.
Right.
And it just dawned on me one day and I was like, why don't I do this for sellers?
Yeah.
Like I've been doing this forever and I know the game. And so I just was like, let's try it. And so I went nationwide to try it at first. And I was getting like $20 leads nationwide, inbound, ready to sell. And then I realized that we couldn't close them. Well, we could lock them up. We couldn't close them because they're just in rural, random places. So then I kept testing new markets and things. And then I honestly have no idea why I didn't do this in the beginning, but I was like, you know what? Why am I not running this in Vegas? Because I think at that time I was just so fed up with Vegas's cost per leads and the competitiveness. And I'm like, dude, if these are $500 to $800 a lead here in Vegas, and I know I could be in like tier 2 markets like San Antonio and other things for like 50 to 100 a lead. I'd rather go out there.
Right.
But long story short, I realized that, we were just so good at dispo in Vegas and everything else that we should just be in Vegas. And so I started running Facebook ads in Vegas, ended up being about 200 a lead inbound, and we started locking up deals. And then I realized that this was the biggest key, and this is the biggest difference that nobody talks about with leads. I realized that the conversion time of these leads was so fast compared to everything else. So we started to do novations more a few months ago, and we were locking up everything the same day.
Wow.
The moment the lead came, anyone can look in our CRM. I would guess 70% of our deals are done within the first 48 hours. That quickly.
That's massive.
Over the phone.
Yeah, it's massive.
And we remember the last 4 years, we're doing TV, which is fine. We got a great return, but we got setters. We're then setting an appointment for like the next day or two. And then we're going on an appointment. And, we were happy if 1 out of 4 would sign, right then and there. But then, we're going to go get them in follow-up and, all this other stuff. And like the sales cycle from lead to actually getting it is longer, but it was still fine. It's like, I would say the average might've been 2 weeks,
right?
The sales cycle on a call or on a cold call or a text is like 100 days.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe longer.
Yeah. It's like, bro, he says yes today. He might finally pop a year from now.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky, he might pop 60, 90 days from now where they're like, you know what? I think I'll do a deal with you. That's not what I saw with these Facebook leads. I saw they were all ready to go right now. And the only problem was they all want market value. And they're already shopping Open Door and OfferPad and these things. And that became the new dilemma of like,
how to convert that.
How do you convert this amazing lead they're clearly motivated, but they're not going to go give you their house for free. Like, if I'm just targeting pre-foreclosures and, all this other stuff. I mean, even when you target pre-foreclosures, as you know, you're still got massive competition.
Oh, for sure.
It's just everybody's trying to lowball them out of nothing, right? Whereas here I was like, you know what? What if we just straight up pitch novation out the gate on all these leads? What would happen? And I go, guys, I want you to just pitch the novation from the get-go. obviously, well, if they really want cash and they are in a distressed situation where they got to sell tomorrow, then sure, we can do that. But most people who are at least clicking these ads, they don't need to sell tomorrow.
Right.
But they do need to sell, and they would sell today if they could. And so we just started pitching Novation, and it was like, oh yeah, like if I can make an extra $50K waiting 90 days,
I'll do it. Yeah.
I'm square.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, because your house is nice. You don't need the cash.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, as long as we don't have to deal with realtors and all this crap and you guys will take care of all that, we're good.
Yeah. We're going to give you the hands-off, white glove experience, right? We're going to take care of it all for you.
And that changed everything. The moment we switched to that, it was gangbusters in locking up deals. Like last month, we locked up 29 deals. And like legit deals, not just like, oh, well, these are all just like, I'm like, wow, we should see, because our Novation, well, that's the other part about Novation too that's crazy is the like like whatever you want to call it, the fallout rate is significantly less.
Right.
It's on the market. Like it's going to close at some point, and your renegotiation, if you need to, is going to be way easier.
Yeah.
Because there's no like, oh, I might just list it. It's like, no, dude, it's already listed. So
well, we're
just overpriced.
It's just the communication, right? And like right now, I tell my guys, don't like set the expectation at like a 90 to 120 day. Whereas
that's what we do.
In the spring, you can probably tell them 60 days, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Because, hey, we can handle this for you in 60 days, but we know that, I can look at days on market in that subdivision and go, it's 15 days. So I can.
Yeah, this thing's going to move quick.
Yeah, exactly. So, and as long as you're communicating well with them, right, you can, if it doesn't sell right away, all you got to do is just adjust the communication. But if you're being upfront and honest with them the whole time, then that's easy to do, right?
Super. Yeah. And for those wondering, two things. One, I put out an Novation course. You can get it for $3. So it's on wealthyuniversity.com. And it has all of our scripts, literally that. We just talk about setting just clear expectations from the get-go, and that prevents everything else thereafter.
Right.
So it all starts with the sell. And then two, we saw the same thing happen. So I have a lead gen company called Lead Kitchen, and essentially we just use my ads in their markets.
Right.
And so I just saw those who actually do novations, they're killing it.
Yeah.
And I would say those who kind of stick to whatever process they think they have, whether they're good or not, they've not killed it. And like even for us, I remember we went like 0 for 15 on appointments. And I was like, how do you go 0 for 15 on an appointment? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. They say they want to sell, they've been set. And it's like, I learned two things. Once again, one, like you can't be a one-trick pony. You can't just offer cash because that's what's been working for the last 4 years, and we've been fine doing it.
Right.
So we had to switch that. But two, I learned that these leads did not want to go on an appointment. They're like ready now. They're in the offer pad, open door mentality.
Yeah.
They're like, just tell me what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's actually way better than having to go play the game.
Yeah, and like you said, the biggest problem we're having is we see a lot of those that are already listed, which are a little difficult. So I don't know what that's probably my biggest current problem with inbound leads. Let's talk about that, because a lot of people ask me that too, because they're like, oh, dude, like a bunch of these already listed. Yeah.
And I'm like, you can still make money on them. And that's just going to be something with inbound.
Yeah.
So what do you do with yours?
So, I explain all our different processes, like, hey, you're listed, you're retail, that's where you're at right now. We have solutions. We have a lot of different tools. So we talk about a lot of the ones that are listed, we try to switch them to some kind of creative, because if they're just sitting on MLS, it's tough for us to just say, hey, we can take this. But we try to do something where we can say, hey, maybe your project needs a little freshen up. So we try to switch them to Novation that way by doing a little freshen up, where we come in with a little paint and carpet, little clean up the landscaping. We got one that the pool's empty. Like it's listed, but the pool's empty.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't help.
That ain't going to sell.
So those are kind of the two of the conversations. We obviously do tell them, like, hey, you called off our PPC lead. We're a wholesale buyer. We can help you convert quickly, but for that, the price has to be the price, right?
Yep.
If you want quick and speed and convenience and all that, and we can't get to that whole sale price, we can look at some creative financing options. Even if we do a long-term fix and flip where you kind of move out, you give us the property, we can leave the 4% mortgage in place. While we do the fix and flip, we can give you a little bit more than the wholesale offer. So we just try to convert the conversation.
Yeah. No, we do the same thing. I mean, like, anytime they're listed, which, like you said, I mean, happens very frequently in inbound. And people don't understand that. Like, you can go pay $600, $700 for an inbound lead, and it might be listed.
Yep.
So are you going to just do nothing with it and say the lead sucks? Or are you going to work it?
Yeah, you got to do something.
Yeah. And so for us, we've gotten plenty of deals that were listed, but I can just tell you 3 recently this month off the top of my head were listed and converted. And then these are only ones I know about. But one was this deal in Indiana, listed. We went in and did a creative finance deal with them. And so, we got like 10 grand down, like $600 a month payments, and we went and wholesaled it for 13 grand.
Yeah, there you go.
So that just a normal listed deal. And we just said, hey, if this is the price you want, we got to get terms.
Yeah.
And so that was one. A second one we did, they were listed at like 260. And we were like, they're like, no, dude, we need to sell like tomorrow. We don't want creative. We don't want any of this. And we're like, well, it's going to have to be a low cash offer. And they ended up taking 190.
There you go.
Like, there's that. And then the third one actually is a luxury deal that my friend had. He actually is the seller. He's like, what would you be at on it? And he ended up taking 400 grand off the price. And it's just like, people who are listed, if they're on those sites saying, hey, I want to sell my house,
they want to sell.
They're motivated.
Yeah.
Because their agent's not selling it. And they're like, all right, I'm kind of tired of what's happening here. I'm ready to figure out how to sell this myself because they're not getting it done.
Yeah. I mean, we do probably of our, call it 30 deals a month, we do 5 on market. But
20% of them are on market.
Yeah. But we have to push out, I have an agent that'll push out 25 offers a day, 100 offers a week.
Yep.
But he'll get, he'll get 5 or 6 deals a month.
Yep.
But he's just picking up the phone like, hey, I see you reduced your price. Like, I got an investor offer. Would you listen to it? Mm-hmm. Okay. You won't? Great. Call me back if it gets a month down the road and you want to rethink that. So,
yep.
I mean, he literally makes 20 to 25 calls a day, but like people, it's crazy. Like, oh, it's listed at 350 and I'm buying it at 260.
It happens.
Yeah.
Like every day.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen every day in our company, but it happens every day in your market. People listed who are taking 100 grand less.
Yep.
Every day.
That's for all the guys that are out there that are just like, hey, if you're willing to make 100 calls a week to agents that have stuff listed, like,
you can make money.
You can make money. And it's free. It's just time consuming.
Super time consuming.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Since you've been in the game a long time, like outbound versus inbound.
I just tell people like, hey, you either have time or you have money, right? If you don't have the marketing budget to spend and go down that process, you got to spend your time. And, if you're just starting out, you need those reps and those calls anyway. You need to learn how to have that conversation. So just start having conversations with agents, right?
Yeah.
I got a buyer. I go, because I do some coaching, not at your level, just like I take on like 5-10 people every 6 months, right?
Yep.
I'm like, hey, just start having the conversation. You need to like have 200 conversations. So just say, hey, I got this buyer, he's a tall guy in the back there. He'll buy your house, but we need to be at a certain number, and just start dialing for dollars with agents. And then, I had a guy that worked from there, and then he started doing some outbound marketing, and then our inbound marketing. Sorry. And then, he ran with it. But, obviously having the mindset and making those calls and doing it consistently and all that stuff is, you got to be willing to do all that. So,
yeah. The way I always explain it is, to your point, if you're just getting started, do the free crap, make offers on the MLS network, do all that stuff. It's just, it's not super scalable.
Right.
It is what it is. And then, if you get a little bit of money, then you can go outbound, spend a couple $1,000 a month, and you can get cold calls and text. And basically, you have to cold call and text. There's nothing else to do at that budget level. And then, if you're willing to spend $5-10 grand a month, then more, then you can finally do inbound.
Yeah.
And it's like inbound is, in my eyes, the easiest to scale.
Yeah. But take the $3 class, because you can't just have the wholesale offer. You have to have the novation offer as well.
Yep.
If you can learn the creative finance offer also. I don't know if you have that one too.
Yep, we have that too. Yeah, we teach them creative. It's all in there for $3.
Yeah. So learn the creative offer, and then, I always tell people, like, if you're not an agent, become best friends with an agent, because, like, even if you're just getting a referral for a listing for the guy that wants to take it retail, there's just some leads you can't convert. They want to go retail, and you're on the conversation with them, so convert that. But the days of just being able to wholesale strictly are over. So it's like, and then, like, we got these markets that are saying wholesale's terrible, like Pennsylvania, Oregon, South Carolina, Chicago. I don't even know them all anymore.
Right.
They're just going to keep changing as we go on. So,
and you got that company with Corey that is able to help those guys out. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's Corey came to me. He was texting me one night when South Carolina passed a law. I think this is in like April. He's like, "Chris, your wholesale business is. Are you worried about it? Are you looking for the copy legislation?"
By the way, Corey is just always like so like drama, like hyper. I don't want to say drama, but he's like hyper sensationalist.
Yeah. So it's like, how are you adjusting your business? And I'm like, I'm not worried about it, Corey. I think
I tell him that. I'm like, bro, I ain't worried about it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'll just adjust my business. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, remember, Corey, I'm a hard money lender. I manage about $60 million. So, like, I might actually be excited if there were less people in the game. So I probably can convert more deals. My lead cost might go down. Like, this might actually be a good thing. And he's like, well, how do we make that solution for the guys in South Carolina? So they just need cash. They just got to learn that they need cash. So they need to go find a private guy. Mm-hmm. Or he goes, well, how do we become their private guy? I'm like, well, why don't we test a couple and see if, like, he's like, I got some friends out there that could use this. So it's just basically, we're looking for people to partner with where, they get that deal where they want to wholesale it. They got a really killer deal at 60%. And we can take it down with them. Like, wholesalers don't like to come out of pocket, right? So that's their goal. So we provide 100% of the financing as long as the deal qualifies. They still pay us 12% interest, just like every deal that comes across my desk. You're paying the 12% as you're getting 100% funding. You're still paying the 12% ticker, and then we just take a small portion of the back end when you sell it back on MLS.
Right.
So
it's just to help those guys who are in current regulation problems with wholesaling.
So it can, like, I had a guy that's a pretty heavy hitter that wanted us to do it in Oregon because I guess their law changes in January. It also helps that student that might get out there and use his time to start dialing for dollars in South Carolina.
Yeah.
But that student doesn't have access to, the network that you have access, the network I have access to. But he gets, students get some really good deals sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it might be a great opportunity for a student where, hey, I got this great deal. He brings it to us. We underwrite it. He takes it down because he can't just throw it up on Facebook Marketplace because he's told to lock up the deal and wholesale the deal and get his cash, right?
Right.
Then he can take his cash and start using it for marketing and all that.
Yep.
So this is an opportunity where he can bring us the deal. We can underwrite it. It kind of gives him that, uncle on the shoulder that kind of, yes, you got a good deal.
Yeah,
right?
Yep, good job.
Yeah. So we'll give you 100% on the deal. And you can not only just take it to Facebook Marketplace, now you can take it to the MLS.
Yep.
Where you can maximize your profit. And we charge 20% plus we get our 12% interest during the time frame. So
20% of the profit split.
Yeah.
And then I think Corey said that's takedownfunding.com.
Yeah, takedownfunding.com.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting for you, right? Like you've been in a different game too, where I mean, obviously you're doing acquisitions and doing lots of wholesales and doing some flips. And actually, before I even talk about that, 30 deals a month, what percentage would you say are wholesale versus flip versus novation versus all that?
Yeah, so we're strictly just a wholesaler. So we get between outbound marketing, MLS marketing, inbound marketing, let's just say we get 15 of those that way. And then the other 15 are just relationship based from being in the business.
Yeah. But like what percentage are the exit strategies, would you say?
I'm just a wholesaler.
But you're doing novations, it's too.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess I look at that
as part of wholesale.
Yeah, as part of wholesale. That's just a different dispositions because I'm not actually taking it down. I'm not.
No, I get that. So out of the 30 though that you do, how many exit via whole or novation versus just pure wholesale end buyer, or not end buyer, but
So
cash
if my 30 half are through my acquisition team, I'd say a third of them are like a novation or in the novation process.
Yep.
We definitely have some creative stuff in there too. Because I mean, you can almost sell for 90 cents on the dollar if you're offering some good financing, right?
Yep.
And then the other 20 are just wholesale. We're just wholesale, but once again, hard money lender. As soon as we get that call, we're like, yeah, can we provide the capital for you as well? So
yeah, how often are you double dipping?
I don't know. I'd say we're probably only doing, I'd say 40%.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
40% of your deals, you end up making money as the lender too.
Yeah. I mean,
that's how you basically are your supply of transaction volume.
Yeah, for sure. Our hard money business, if I'm at 60 million, if I had another 40 million, it would be out like that. So I don't like to say no to loans. So I just kind of bump my down payment sometimes. I'm at 15% down generally. But if we're low on cash, I'll be like, I need 20 on that one, right? So
why not raise more money?
So I've actually, for the first time, just started, researching this process. I was the wholesaler first, the hard money lender. I've just started like on the raise capital side and what that looks like, and setting up funds and bringing in. That whole process is something. Literally, the 60 million is someone calling me and like, "Hey, Chris, my buddy has money with you. Can I put money with you?" Like it's.
So wait, the 60 million is all like private capital, and none of it's like institutional.
No, it's just all friends of friends.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it's real. I've never raised a dollar. I'm just now starting to raise money. It's literally
like it's always people just introduced to other people. You never like have sought it out.
Yeah, it's like. This guy, hey, my buddy has 3 million with you. I have like $1 million. I just sold an apartment complex. Can I park it with you? I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's have lunch.
Yeah, and that's just in a fund?
No, it's individual notes.
Deal by deal basis.
Yeah, deal by deal.
So the same way we raise for flips. You're just like, hey, all right, dude, you're going to be on this deed of trust. This is yours.
Yeah, we basically give you a blanket lending agreement saying, hey, Ryan, you got $2 million. I'm just going to assign first deeds of trust to you. I assign them to you. I'm a licensed banker, so I service them. I don't charge any servicing fee. And then like every, 60 to 90 days, because I've assigned you the note, we have coffee and I'm like, hey, Ryan, I need these 7 releases because you own the note. I don't own the note. So I just, title can close them. And then I just come to you, say, hey, Ryan, I need these releases. You're in my notary book or my assistant's notary book. We have coffee, you sign my 6 and I send them in and I record them.
Got it. How much longer do you think you're going to do this?
I don't know. So the wholesale business, my son runs, he's up there. He's like 27. So he's been running it probably for the last 3 to 4 years consistently. But the hard money business is such an easy business. Like, I mean, a deal comes in, you underwrite it, and you don't even say no. You're like, all right, you're doing 15% down on this one. I don't like this deal. I'll do it for 25% down. I don't usually say no. I just increase.
It's just more down.
Yeah, just more down. And, we do the loan. And once the loan is approved, we can create a doc set in 30 minutes, send it to title.
It's done.
The loan's funded. The checks come in. I'll be a hard money lender till I die, right?
It's just too easy.
It literally takes one good person with a transaction coordinator that can do paperwork, or a loan processor that can do paperwork, and that's it. And
so what would you do if ever, I guess, things went south with the people you're lending to? Your obligation is to your investors, obviously. So you're going to have to figure out how to make it right for them.
So the difference between this time and last time is in 2007, you have a bank line that has covenants, and if you don't reach them,
you're not personally guaranteeing these.
That you're shut down. All my conversations with guys that have come in is hey, I went through this. I'm not going through this again. I'm not signing a personal guarantee. If we don't
the person has a personal guarantee that you lend to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually a personal guarantee, we don't actually make them sign personal guarantees. They're kind of worthless in Arizona. You couldn't even enforce them if you wanted to. But let's say you give me $1 million. I'm like, hey, Ryan, if something catastrophic happens, you have 6 or 7 $150,000 notes. I made this loan at a time when, you have every right to look at the underwriting collateral. I give you an entire package. It looks good. We're at 65 cents on the dollar. If we don't have to sell, i.e. in 2022, if you had all those houses back in 2022 that you sold and you were to market them now, you would probably get half your $1 million back, or your $2 million loss, right?
Yeah.
Or pretty close, or maybe even more than that. But if you're not forced to sell at a specific time and you can
ride it out.
It's like selling Bitcoin when it was $16,000 a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
What is it now? 50 or 60.
Yeah.
So I don't have any money in it, but it was at 60 and then it went to 16. But if you weren't a seller at 16, you're back to 60.
You're square now.
Yeah. So, that's just the conversation I have with people. So we don't have to be sellers. We can rent these out. We can wait till the market comes back, but I'm not taking a beating for somebody else again. It's
yeah. Well, and also too, I think there's one thing I've thought about as well is once you start getting into sophisticated money, it's kind of different. It's dude, guys, obviously I understand now why there's accredited investors.
Yeah.
It's at some point people need to, you take responsibility for your own decisions.
Yeah. So it's, and it's an investment. It's not, I'm doing the best as I can as a custodian to put the best loans in place. I did a deal where I wrote a $127,000 check on a loan that I made that I assigned to somebody else. The guy was doing a high-end flip. He just ripped it all apart, demoed everything, and just didn't put it back together. And he's like, just ran into some bad. And I probably should have foreclosed a little faster. Would have saved myself a little bit more money. But I gave him a little leeway, was trying to get him to, do the right thing. And I lost $127,000, but that investor didn't take the hit for the $120,000. I just wrote the check, but that guy's got a couple $1 million with me, and he's going to keep his couple $1 million with me, right? So
the investor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just, sense. We're all just people, right? It's just all communication. So whether you're dealing with a seller or, a high-end investor, it's just, what does that conversation look like?
Yeah. How do you deal with I guess losses? Because most people are afraid to fail. They don't want to lose money. They don't want to, even try because the potential to lose is so fearful. And then, they'll hear something like this, and then it's just well, yeah, I lost here, and but then, that allowed me to make this and this and this and this, and now I've got this and this and this, and so I don't know, what makes your mindset different to allow you to deal with failure?
There's some people, and maybe you can relate to this. But there's some people that just have that nervousness, and I'm sure you see it. I just don't have it. I just, even after failing, I played basketball in high school and college, and I got cut as a freshman, and all that made me do was go to the
work harder,
right? And then I made my JV team, and I never played. And I sat on the bench my entire JV year, and I would go to practice, and then I'd go to the park, afterwards. And it was just same thing. It's you failed in a financial crisis, you got laid off from your jobs. It's just I don't have that. I just know that if I work hard every single day, something good will happen.
Good things are going to happen. Yeah. Well, and I think it just comes in having belief in yourself, because you're like, look, yeah, I'll get through this. It'll be fine. It's a setback, but it's all good.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just most people just don't believe in themselves. I think that's the biggest thing.
And it's crazy how fear can control some people. Fear has a huge impact on people, and I just don't have that.
But is that where you are today, or what about when you first started and you got laid off? Was there fear in what you were going to do? How'd that work?
No, I just don't. I don't have that fear. It's all right, what can I do now? What do I need to change? I obviously got another job. I had another job. So I got laid off from a company called ProSoft Training. I was an IT manager. I went into consulting business for Phillips Petroleum. Actually ran the lottery system. The lotteries for the whole country.
What?
Were on a couple SQL databases at Phillips Petroleum. So, but while I was there, I was making my exit strategy from the corporate world, and I just started going to the courthouse. This is my favorite story I tell my students. I went to the courthouse for the first time on July 30th or 31st. I bought my first house on December 22nd. I sat there and researched and watched for literally all of August, September, October, November. December 22nd, I actually pulled the trigger. But, it doesn't happen overnight. But as long as you have consistency and, you have that willingness to push through, you'll get it done, right?
Yeah. Do you think that you were just scared during that time, or not confident, or why did it take so long?
Just I didn't want to make a mistake, but then obviously, sooner or later you gotta
rip the Band-Aid.
Yeah, you gotta rip the Band-Aid. And, I had done enough research, and I learned, I figured out, here's where, first of all, you had to figure out where the trustee sales were, because there was multiple spots. And then you had to, thank goodness I just didn't go. Then you have to learn about lien position. And then you got to learn about HOA lien position, and do the HOAs wipe off, and then the city liens and the back taxes. And
dude, those HOA super liens were crazy.
Yeah. You guys, Vegas was just nutty. You could buy a foreclosure on an HOA. People were buying foreclosures on the HOA, and the mortgage didn't start foreclosing. There was a moratorium on foreclosing on mortgages forever. So people would buy a 2,000 HOA lien, rent the house out on $2,000. And this is 8, 9, 10, right?
Yeah.
And they paid $2,000 for the HOA lien. They're paying the HOA lien, and they rented it for 5, 6, 7 years.
Some of them got the home free and clear.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
that was the craziest part about it. They had to put a stop to it, which I was telling the story, I don't even remember, a few episodes ago. But yeah, when I first got in the game out here, this HOA super priority lien was this really big deal, because the story came out, this person bought a $5,000 lien on $1 million home. And according to the law, that superposition lien wipes out all the other liens.
So it's in front of the first position.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was this guy's making the case no, I own this house free and clear. And they're like, dude, there's no way. You can't just wipe out an $800,000 mortgage because you bought an HOA lien.
Yeah.
He's like, that's what the law says. And he had a point.
Yeah.
And eventually they realized no, we're not going to give you clear title on these. But I remember a lot of these guys were trying to sell those deals for crazy, they bought a lien for $5,000 like we're talking about. And then they're over here selling these houses for $100,000 that are worth $250. And people are like, why is this selling for $100,000? He owned it.
Yeah.
But it was clouded title.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was like, well, even at 100, if you can sit on it for a few years, you could make the 100 back. And then maybe if the law works in your favor, you might end up owning it.
Yeah. I was, just down here bidding on houses, buying for the fund. I was like, why are these guys buying these $2,000, $3,000 HOA liens? I'm like, I didn't get the play behind it. And they're like, well, right now, the city of Las Vegas or the state of Nevada has a kind of a moratorium on foreclosing.
Yep.
So these guys were buying $3,000 houses that were like kind of move-in ready.
Never going to get foreclosed on.
Never going to get foreclosed on. And they were
just renting them.
They took, yeah. I mean, they were renting them out for like $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a piece on
making their money back in 2 months. Yeah, and then everything else is just.
Yeah. I didn't hear about that story, but I was just like, I couldn't get why people were bidding on the.
Yeah. They were getting the cash flow and the potential to potentially get it.
Did anybody actually get a house?
Yes.
A couple of them, right? Or
I don't know how many. Like a good amount.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I remember because I got licensed in 2010 and this is when this was all going down. And I just remember sitting there thinking like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever going to cry for the banks, but I was like, that's just like not even, that makes no logical sense from anyone's standpoint that buying the HOA lien could wipe out everything.
Yeah. I remember when I was bidding down here, it was like, if you bought the first HOA liens in Arizona, they wipe out. But here, you got either 6 or 9 months of past dues that you got to pay.
Right.
Yeah. So I didn't hear that piece of the story about the super lien position.
Dude, it's crazy. So yeah, dude, HOAs were fun. I don't know, man. I just think about where the market's going, and a guy like you's been around a long time, and having seen lots of cycles, and I'm always thinking like, man, what can I learn? Because I've learned from every cycle, and I've learned that, man, it's like when you got times like 2020, 2021, early 20, you better like just shove it all in.
Yeah. So
and just kill it.
Yeah. So I think like what's interesting is I love obviously the novation model. I don't think that's a forever model.
Yeah.
I think it's for sure if they're going to take away wholesaling like they've done in Oregon, South Carolina, and they're going to make you be licensed in all these other states. Already net listings, which is similar to novations, is illegal in Arizona, but they haven't actually switched novations to being illegal. So actually I run a local RIA in Phoenix. So I'm kind of like, I want to know the answers for Phoenix. So on September 10th, I invited I'm partnered with Fidelity Title. So I used my leverage with Fidelity. I just invited the head of ADRE out. I'm like, come on out to my RIA. Let's talk about all this stuff. And, so on September 10th in Arizona, I got the head of the department coming out just as let's talk about wholesaling. Let's talk about novations. Let's talk about all this stuff. Creative finance, obviously there's nothing wrong with doing subject twos. All the bank can do is say, hey, you owe me the money. Yeah. But there's nothing illegal about it. All they can say is, I'm going to foreclose on you.
I'm going to exercise our option to call it due.
Yeah. So everybody's like, oh, this is illegal. I'm like, no, it's not. It just, you can
That's what people say about net listings all the time. And I'm like, it's not illegal in most places.
Yeah.
You think it is.
Yeah, it is in Arizona. But so that's, so I don't think novations is a long-term deal. I think I have a hard time, people with the whole, you have to be an agent to wholesale. Because I wholesaled 2 in July. One was a murder-suicide.
Oh.
So, I mean, the carpet's still cut out. Like, that doesn't need to run through an agent, right? And one was an elderly person that passed away, and unfortunately, you pass away, and the cat and dog aren't being fed. So there's the cat and dog, right? But nobody's feeding them. So, I mean, those are 2 examples of wholesale deals that don't need to go through, the MLS, right?
Yeah.
So there's a place for us wholesalers, and hopefully, there's a balancing act between wholesaling, because there's wholesaling, there's taking it to the market, but people need liquidity now at certain times, right?
Yeah.
I need to sell in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, And then some people, that whole fear thing that, like everybody's like, why would someone do a novation? I'm like, I'm not them. Yeah. There's something in them that has some fear. They don't want people going through their house. They don't understand. They don't feel comfortable with the entire process, because our sales team is like, hey, we do this for a living. We negotiate for a living. We can handle the repairs for a living. This is what we do. So you can just sit back and relax. We'll take that off your plate and we'll handle it for you.
Well, and that's my point with like knowing when to shove all in.
Right.
Because it's like, all right, clearly right now they're working really good. So we're shoving all in.
Yeah.
And going to ride it until the ship stops.
Right.
And then we'll find whatever that next thing is.
And what's great about that is when you're all in here, you're not all in on your 50 deals.
Oh, yeah. Dude, way less risk, stress, headache. Everything about it is way better than what I was doing before. And it's like, I remember you were talking about, we were all selling to the hedge funds, right? We were all selling to the hedge funds and Open Door and all these guys directly for, a nice couple of year period. Yeah. And it's like, all right, it ended.
Yeah, just stops.
You sold we made a lot of money selling them. It was over. Okay, what's the next thing?
Right.
And that's why I'm saying, like, if you want to be great at real estate, you really got to shove your chips in on whatever the thing is working at that moment, because it just stops working and then there's a new thing and then there's a new thing.
Yeah. It's just like texting, right? Running along and texting, then it stops.
Yeah.
And then
new laws, TCPA.
Yeah. So
different things.
You can do a little bit of texting, but you're not going to get out near the volume you were doing before. So.
You're not sending out 100,000 a day.
Yeah. So it's just, and that's what makes guys like you and other guys good, right? The guys that know how to, all right, it's adjustment time. What do we do?
Yep.
Put our heads together, figure it out, move forward.
Yep. Well, dope. Well, Chris, it's been great talking to you, man. Great insights on where things are headed, just the different cycles and all that. So I know people got a lot of value out of it. We'll link to all your stuff down below. And everyone else, if you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.